Hello there everybody, it is me XfreezerBunny. Welcome back to another video and welcome back to another Japanese inspired build here in the beautiful world of Mount Komorebi. So today we are building a Japanese bathhouse, otherwise known as a Sentō, and I gotta say, when Snowy Escape was first announced, I got bombarded with so many requests, so many messages. I got so many people asking me to build an onsen, which is a very special lot type. It's one of the new ones that came with Snowy Escape, but I didn't get as many people asking me to do a Sentō actually. And basically I probably only got maybe one or two people mention it briefly, but I thought that making one would be interesting because at this point I think there's so many onsens out there, but not really a lot of Sentō builds. And don't worry, I am planning to do an onsen build at some point, but for now, since we are, doing kind of a bunch of Komorebi builds, I decided to do the Sentō first because I'm planning to do the onsen for my New Crest series, so please keep an eye out for that as well. But I know a lot of you are probably wondering, what is the difference between an onsen and a Sentō? And trust me, that is an age-old question that really doesn't have a fixed answer, because basically, I'm gonna try my best to explain it. But a Sentō is basically a Japanese public bathhouse, and an onsen is a Japanese hot spring. Technically, both of these are considered public bathhouses, but the best way I can describe it is that a Sentō is more of a necessity. It's kind of like part of people's daily routines, because I think historically, and I think still nowadays, a lot of Japanese people didn't have baths in their homes, so people would usually rely on Sentōs to clean themselves after a long day of work. Whereas onsen, it's more of a pleasure experience that you kind of have to go out of your way to somewhere where there's kind of like a natural hot spring, because that's what an onsen is all about. But what's interesting is that those are pretty general descriptions of either one of those, but I have noticed some crossover between onsen and Sentō as well, because I've seen some Sentō that also have onsen facilities, and these are usually Sentō that are built near a source of hot spring water, which is pretty interesting because the lot that I chose this on looks like it's actually pretty close to a hot spring water source. If you look at the back, there's kind of like some pipes. I mean, it could easily just be sewage from the neighborhood, but I'd like to think of it as a hot spring water source, so I think it really made sense for this build to be on this lot in particular, even though there was a house that was originally built here as well, which is pretty nice. But I just really like the idea of having a Sentō here. Also, it gives me an excuse to do builds that don't have baths, because now that we have a Sentō in Mount Komorebi, you can easily just bring your sim here and, wash themselves. So that's that. Also, I know I said this in my previous builds, but I have to say, this is probably one, if not my favorite build I've done so far. I have been so proud of this build, and in fact, I've been sharing this whole building process throughout Twitter, and I'm really happy to see that people are super excited for this, and the feedback that I've gotten with the build that I've shown so far is pretty positive, so I'm really excited to get this up to see what you think. Also, this build is actually going up on a Monday for me, maybe Monday night, but actually I'm recording this on a Sunday, but Monday, tomorrow, is actually a holiday for me, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, usually I try to avoid uploading builds on a weekday because honestly, they don't do as well in terms of views compared to videos that you know, I would normally upload on a weekend, but honestly, I don't really have a fixed schedule, and I like to get the build up when it's done. I don't really want to have to wait or, you know, hold off on uploading it, so I don't know. Hopefully you guys will still enjoy it, and hopefully you'll still find the time to watch this as well. Also, if you missed my previous build, I built an izakaya which was uploaded on a weekday as well last week, and I noticed that not a lot of people have seen it, so you might want to check that out as well if you would want to have some inspiration for, you know, a traditional Japanese restaurant slash bar. And if you're interested to see that, it's on my channel as well. But I totally forgot to talk about it as we were doing it, but a very special feature of this build is actually the roof detail, which I also did in that izakaya build that I mentioned. But I've discovered this little technique using the tool mod to rotate the roof pieces that came with Snowy Escape, and I basically used them as roof accents, and like I said in my previous build, they made such a huge difference because I think the roof now looks more Japanese, it looks more realistic. And I mean, when you talk about Asian architecture, I think the feature that stands out the most is actually the roof. So I would have liked to have seen more roof accents, roof decorations, but we only got one, and it was a straight item. But now that we have the tool mod working in Mount Komorebi, because at some point it still wasn't working, it only just got updated recently for Snowy Escape. Now that that's working, I can use it to its full potential, and I'm really excited to do that. Also, my voice just cracked. By the way, I just got back from a meeting with a client for a little project that I'm working on right now. So if my voice sounds a little bit tired, that's the reason why. It was a 2 to 3 hour meeting, by the way. So I did most of the talking, and it's got nothing to do with YouTube or Sims related stuff, by the way. Just to get that out there, it's some personal work. So yeah, right now we are working on the interior, and basically the vibe that I was going for this build was kind of more of a retro modern vibe. Retro in a sense that I really wanted to capture that hominess, you know, of traditional looking Sentō. That's why I went for a very traditional look on the outside. So I'd like to think that this was built maybe about a century ago, but it has been renovated over the years to, you know, make it more appealing to the younger generation, and also retrofitted with some of the modern technologies and modern amenities as well. So hopefully you can see that. Once again, I'm using the tool mods to manipulate some of the items in place. This time I'm using them to create these shoe lockers, because originally these are kids closets from base game. Honestly, I didn't think those were from base game for the longest time. For some reason, I always thought those closets were from either Parenthood or kids room stuff, but apparently they're from base game. I'm assuming they came with a patch at some point. Honestly, I don't really keep track. We get so many patches, like it's hard to tell which item came with which patch. But yeah, I rotated them. They look like proper shoe lockers. Now, if you don't look too closely, the upper shelves don't look upside down, so you might have to squint a little bit. Also, speaking of not really keeping up, I've also mentioned this when I responded to one of the comments in my previous builds, but I haven't seen any of the live streams for Snowy Escape, nor have I seen any of the Game Changer early access content. Actually, haven't really watched a lot of videos on Snowy Escape, so if I'm not the most knowledgeable about the pack, then that's why. I'd like to discover all of the new features myself, and what's great about that is that, you know, I got to experience the pack myself for the first time, firsthand, and you also get to, you know, experience my initial reaction as well. So whenever I react to something, you would know that it's, you know, kind of like my raw, unfiltered reaction whenever I discover a new feature. And this happens a lot to me on Twitter, but whenever I post about something, people usually go, "Freezer Bunny, we've known about this for a month now. Like, how are you only discovering this now. Like, yeah, that happens to me a lot, but it's okay. At the end of the day, I'm just a fan, and I also want to experience the game for what it is at my own time. Also, notice the amount of clutter I am putting in the interior, and I think it really makes this place feel very much like a part of it, the community that it's in. And obviously that's one of the appeals of a Sentō, is that it's really a community gathering place, no matter how you look at it. I mean, I think that Japan has a very special public bathing culture, and I think that, you know, there's a community aspect to it that I really want to capture as well. By the way, in the middle of these two dressing areas, there is a little piece of furniture. Actually, it's kind of a room, but in reality, it's kind of furniture called a bandai. And basically, it's a chair kind of desk that has a receptionist, and basically it's a little lookout point that overlooks the rest of the Sentō so that they can keep an eye out on the customers and see what they're doing. That's why it actually looks onto the bathing area itself. I have also seen some that open onto the main entrance as well. So it's kind of weird because the main entrance, from the main entrance of this place, you can actually see like the bathing area. So I mean, in reality, people who go to Sentō, they bathe completely naked. So that's why I had to use some of the frosted glass in the, you know, main entrance area, just so that people who, you know, are just entering the place or passing by, they don't see people, you know, in their birthday suit, basically. But yeah, I had so much fun decorating this area. This is the women's dressing area, and yeah, it has a little seating area over here that overlooks the garden. We will do a little bit of landscaping on that later on as well. One thing I noticed about Sentō is that historically they have a pretty standard shape, pretty standard design, and I really wanted to replicate that as best as I can. So yeah, hopefully this is a faithful representation of what they are in real life. Obviously, I haven't experienced them, but I'm still contemplating whether I want to go to a Sentō or an onsen when I eventually go to Japan. Yeah, it's still one of those weird things that I have to come to terms with, bathing in public in my birthday suit, but I think it's going to be a very special experience, and I kind of just have to, you know, convince myself to not think too much about it and, you know, think of it as a really fun, unique experience. Also, you'll notice that a lot of wall decorations that I'm using here are actually rotated using the tool mod as well. I wasn't initially planning to use city living, but I really wanted to use those koi paintings. They were just so perfect for this build. So basically, this build only uses maybe 5 or 6 other packs. Once again, I find it really easy to do builds with Snowy Escape because I think they're pretty well rounded. Like, the items are actually pretty well rounded, which is great, especially if you're doing Japanese builds. You don't really have to look too far to get the items to work the way you want them to, which is always great because we love versatility. And I think one of the main packs that you would probably need for this to be functional is actually Spa Day. There is an onsen lot type, but you can also easily turn this into a spa. And as you've seen in the previous rooms that we furnished, I have included some massage chairs and some other functional items as well from Spa Day. So if you want to, you can make this into a spa and it'll also work as well. Upstairs, there is also a yoga area with a yoga instructor. So if you set this up as a spa, I do believe that the yoga instructor will come here as well to offer lessons for your Sims. But now we're furnishing the bathing area, and notice that this area has a very high ceiling, and apparently the reason for that is because the steam from the baths obviously they go up, so that's the reason why there's a high ceiling for that. So I really like that practical purpose. Also, I think it's kind of a feature in Sentō's to have a painting of, well, it's not a painting, it's kind of like a mosaic of Mount Fuji in the background. So yeah, I like how they thought of that, because they gave us a tile pattern that had some mountains as well. So I really like that detail. And also, sometimes it's not a mountain, sometimes it's kind of like a Shinkansen, which is a bullet train, or some other thing. But yeah, I thought that doing a mountain was the most, realistic, accurate, I guess. Also, at the back there is a sauna area, and here I actually did a shared sauna, which honestly I think it's kind of weird because of the layout, because basically the people will have to go either on the men or the women's baths to get to the sauna, but the sauna itself is a shared bath, so people will have to wear their underwear. I mean, not that they go naked necessarily when they actually go in this bath itself, because I don't think the Sims actually go naked when they're taking baths, if you get what I mean. But in reality, like, I don't know how it's gonna work, because there's a shared locker, there's a shared sauna, so it's kind of weird. But I kind of want to see if I can improve that layout, so if it changes in the floor plan, then you know why. Also, over here I had to make a room for the boiler. So yeah, this is the boiler room. Obviously they need some sort of mechanism to heat up the hot water, so every Sentō traditionally used to have a boiler room, so I did use one of the new fireplaces that came with Snowy Escape for that. And there's also a chimney as well, and as you can see, it's pretty high up, which is pretty accurate to how Sentōs are in real life. Actually, I'm trying to catch myself if I accidentally say onsen. If I did, I apologize, I actually mean Sentō. You guys get what I mean. But this chimney, there is actually a real functional chimney inside of it, so if you light up the fireplace, it will actually have smoke coming out from it, which is a pretty neat little detail. And right now we're actually working on the landscaping, and usually Sentōs would have these little gardens in front of them. Obviously they're fenced off because people who are passing by probably are gonna see, people in their birthday suit if there isn't a fence there in the garden. But yeah, there's usually a garden in that area in front, so I tried to also replicate that effect in this build as well. Yeah, as you notice, we're not going to dwell too much on the other areas because I really wanted to spend time focusing on the bath area and also some of the more interesting details, right? Such as the roofing detail, which I personally find really interesting. Some people probably find it really tedious, but yeah, I really like the roof accents, so I definitely spent time perfecting that as well. But yeah, there is a yoga area. Like I said, if you set this up as a spa, there will be an instructor coming there so that your Sims can take yoga lessons. Also, I'm not sure about that tatami layout, but I have seen some dojo and some public areas in Japan that have just the tatami going all one way. Yeah, because based on my reference images, that's how they did it. But yeah, other than that, there's also a little seating lounge area outside of the yoga room. So there is some vending machines and some sofas for your Sims to enjoy. If they're waiting for someone or if they are just wanting to relax as well, they can go ahead and hang out there. Maybe grab some milk or some iced coffee, because that's usually a tradition in onsen, by the way. And Sentō, whenever people finish taking baths, they always drink milk or iced coffee. So yeah, I think I pretty much said everything I wanted to. If I forgot something, I will put it in a pinned comment up somewhere. But other than that, I think I'm gonna go now. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.